Good day, students, and belated Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and to your family as well. Welcome to year 2022. So this time, this video discussion will serve as your um, learning materials or guide to discuss and to explain the topic that we have today. So all you need to do is to listen and watch this video. Hope you like this video and hope you watch this video. Thank you and God bless. Una nating pag-aaralan ngayon ay the evolution of the Philippines Constitution. And we will be presenting this into two parts. Okay, so we will be studying for today the first half, which is the 1897 Constitution of Biak-na-Bato, 1899 Malolos Constitution, and also we have 1935 the Commonwealth Constitution. Evolution of the Philippine Constitution. Bago natin tunghayan yung mga pagbabago sa ating saligang batas, i-define muna natin kung ano ba yung Constitution. Okay, so the Constitution is defined as a set of fundamental principles or established precedent according to which a state or other organization is governed. Sa Tagalog, ang saligang batas o konstitusyon ay isang pangkat ng mga prinsipyong saligang o fundamental na ilunsad at naitatag ng mga pamarisan na pinagbabatayan o inaalinsunuran kung paano pinamamahalaan ng isang estado o iba pang organisasyon. So kung makikita natin ang kahulugan nito ng ating konstitusyon o saligang batas, it is presented in two parts. It is defined in two parts. Una is, it is a set of fundamental principles. Isang pangkat o grupo ng mga tinatawag nating prinsipyong saligan, pamarisan o mga batas. So, maaaring ito ay batas sa karapatan ng pangtao, batas sa teritoryo, panglupa ng isang bansa, maaring sa pamumuhay. So, aspeto ng pamumuhay ng isang mamamayan Pilipino o sa isang bansa. So, sa ating case, in our situation, karapatan natin, pamumuhay natin bilang mga Pilipino, yung mapakita ang karapatan. And then the second part is itong mga prinsipyong ito or batas na ito, itong mga pamarisan na ito or standard, ito yung sinusunod ng isang gobyerno kung paano niya pamahalaan ang kanyang bansa. So itong mga principles na ito yung sinusunod, ini-enforce ng gobyerno. So, in our case, ang gobyerno ng Pilipinas, kung paano niya i-govern ang ating bansa, ang bansang Pilipinas, sa madalit sabi. The word itself means to be a part of a whole, constitute. Okay, from the word constitute, the coming together of these distinct entities into one group with the same principles and ideals. These principles define the nature and extent of government. So, yung saligang batas, ito ay nagde-define sa ating gobyerno. Siya yung kumbaga ay nagga-guide sa ating gobyerno kung paano niya pamahalaan ang ating bansa. The Constitution of the Philippines, the supreme law of the Republic of the Philippines, has been in effect since 1987 rather. There were only three other constitutions that have effectively governed the country: the 1935 Commonwealth Constitution, the 1973 Constitution, and the 1986 Freedom Constitution. However, there were earlier constitution attempted by Filipinos in struggle to break free from the colonial yoke. Okay, so number 1 is 1897 Constitution of the Biak-na-Bato. The Constitution of Biak-na-Bato was provisionary constitution of the Philippine Republic during the Philippine Revolution and was promulgated by the Philippine Revolutionary Government on November 1, 1897. So yung saligang batas ng Biak-na-Bato, ito yung tinatawag nating provisionary constitution na kasi wala pa tayong saligang batas before that. So ito ay itong saligang batas na ito, ito yung nilikha or tinatag ng tinatawag nating mga Philippine Revolutionary Government. Kumbaga tungo sa ating kasarinlan, which is independence of the Philippines, prior to our Philippine independence. Ito yung itinatatag na konstitusyon para sa ating bansa, which is Biak-na-Bato. The Constitution borrowed from Cuba was written by Isabelo Atacho and Felix Ferrer in Spanish and later on translated into Tagalog. So, hiniram natin tong saligang batas na ito sa Cuba, sa bansang Cuba, na isinulat naman ni Isabelo Artacho at and Felix Ferrer sa Spanish, isinulat sa Spanish, and then hindi nagtagal isinalin to sa wikang Tagalog. The organs of the government under the Constitution were the Supreme Council, which has vested with the power of the Republic, headed by the President of 4 department secretaries: the Interior, the Foreign Affairs, Treasury, and War. Kumbaga sa ating modernong panahon, ito yung tinatawag natin na executive branch. So, pinamumunuan sila ng isang presidente at 4 na kalihim: the Interior, Foreign Affairs, Treasury, and War. So, yun yung 4. Tandaan nyo. The Consejo Supremo de Gracia y Justicia, or Supreme Council of Grace and Justice, which was given the authority to make decisions and affirm or disprove the sentences rendered by other courts into the state rules for the administration of justice. And itong Supreme Council ng Grace and Justice is ito yung tinatawag nating judiciary branch. Ito yung kumbaga ay siya yung nagpapatupad ng batas. The Asamblea de Representantes, or in English is Assembly of Representatives, which was to be convened after the revolution to create a new constitution and to elect a new council of government and representatives of the people. Itong mga representatives na to, ito yung kumbaga mga gumagawa ng batas. This is the legislative branch na sa atin is kumbaga tagagawa ng batas. The Constitution of Biak-na-Bato was never fully implemented since the truce, the Pacta Biak of the Bato, was signed between the Spanish and the Philippine Revolutionary Army. Hindi talaga naipatupad ito, konstitusyon na ito, kasi nagkaroon ng kasunduan. Kung nagkaroon ng kasunduan between the Spanish government and the Philippine Revolutionary Army, nagkaroon ng pagkakasundo, nagkaroon ng tratado kumbaga between these two parties. Hindi talaga naipatupad, hindi talaga na-implement sa buong bansa itong Constitution of Biak-na-Bato. Okay. Okay, preamble of the Biak-na-Bato, which is yung ating primary sources. Okay, sabi, the separation of the Philippines from the Spanish monarchy and their formation into an independent state with its own government called the Philippine Republic has been the end sought by the revolution in the existing war, begun on the 24th of August 1896, and therefore, in the name by the power delegated by the Filipino people, interpreting faithfully their desires and ambitions, we, the representatives of the revolution, in a meeting at the Biak-na-Bato, November 1, 1897, unanimously adopted the following articles for the Constitution of the state. Okay, the next one is 1899 Malolos Constitution. After the signing of the truce, the Filipino revolutionary leaders accepted the payment from Spain and went exile in Hong Kong. Upon the defeat of the Spanish to the Americans in the Battle of Manila Bay on May 1, 1898, the United States Navy transported Aguinaldo back to the Philippines. So nung nilagdaan itong kasunduan na ito, yung mga Filipino revolutionary leaders, okay, sa pamumuno ni Emilio Aguinaldo, tumanggap sila ng bayad mula sa Espanya, and then sila ay nakulong. They went to exile sa Hong Kong panahon na yon. So nung matalo, magapi ang mga Kastila sa mga Amerikano sa Battle of the Manila Bay, yung United States Navy ay ibinyahe pabalik ng Pilipinas si Aguinaldo. The newly reformed Philippine Revolutionary Forces reverted to control of Aguinaldo, and the Philippine Declaration of Independence was issued on June 12, 1898, together with several decrees that formed in the First Philippine Republic. So naibalik yung kapangyarihan, yung pamumuno at kay Aguinaldo dun sa Philippine Revolutionary Forces. At yung Declaration of the Independence natin is pagpapatupad ng independence or kalayaan natin ng Pilipinas ay ginawa ito noong June 12, 1898. Kasama dito yung mga tinatawag nating mga decrees, yung mga batas na bumubuo para mabuo yung ating unang republika ng Pilipinas. The Malolos Congress was elected, which elected the commissions to draw up and draft Constitution of September 17, 1898, which was composed of wealthy and educated men. So yung mga medyo nakapag-aral nating mga tao noon, sila yung mga kilalang mga tao na sila yung mga nag-commission ng tinatawag nating Malolos Constitution. The document they came up with approved Congress on November 29, 1898, promulgated by Aguinaldo on January 21, 1899, was titled the Political Constitution of 1899 and was written in Spanish. The Constitution has 39 articles divided into 14 titles, with 8 articles of transitory provisions and the final additional article. So medyo mas malawak ito kung ikukumpara mo sa Biak-na-Bato Constitution. So kung ikukumpara naman natin ito sa ating saligang batas sa kasalukuyan, which is the 1987 Constitution, ang 1997 Constitution ay meron siyang 18 articles. So, baka sabihin mo na, sir, mas malawak ang sakop nitong Malolos Constitution. Hindi, kasi yung ating constitution sa pangkasalukuyan or yung ngayon, actually mas malawak ito. Bakit? Halimbawa na lang yung Bill of Rights natin. It has 22 sections. Paborito ko dito yung section 20. No person will be imprisoned because of death. Hindi ka makukulong sa utang. Section 20 ng ating Bill of Rights. Doon pa lang napaka komplikado na or napakalawak na. So yun yung comparison ng Malolos Constitution to our Constitution today. The document was patterned after the Spanish Constitution of 1812 with influences from the charters of Belgium, Mexico, Brazil, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Guatemala, and the French Constitution of 1790. So, isinunod ito naman sa Spanish Constitution of 1812. Kung yung Biak-na-Bato, ang pinagmumulan niya ay yung Constitution of Cuba, ito namang Malolos is sa Spanish Constitution of 1812. So, kumuha daw siya ng mga tinatawag nating mga articles, mga charters mula sa Belgium, Mexico, Brazil, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and the French Constitution of 1793. So, ibig sabihin nun is Spanish Constitution, tapos kumuha siya ng ilang batas mula sa saligang batas ng Belgium. Kasi mga nakalagay dyan ng mga bansa. According to Felipe Calderon, main author of the Constitution, these countries were studied because they shared similar social, political, ethnological, and governance condition with the Philippines. So, meron daw kahawig sa Pilipinas itong mga bansang ito in terms of their social, political, ethnological, and governance conditions. Prior constitutional projects in the Philippines also influenced the Malolos Constitution, namely the Kartilya and the Sangguniang Hukuman, the Charter of Laws, and Moral Support of the Katipunan, written by Emilio Jacinto in 1896. So, idinagdag din nila dito yung mga batas ng Katipunan, kung natatandaan natin doon sa Kartilya ni Emilio Jacinto. The Biak-na-Bato Constitution 1897, planned by Isabelo Artacho. So, mga ilang batas mula sa Biak-na-Bato Constitution ang idinagdag dito. A Viennese Constitutional Program of the Philippine Republic of 1898, the Provincial Constitution of Mariano Ponce in 1898 that followed the Spanish Constitution, and the Autonomy Project of Paterno in 1898. So, dito sa Malolos Constitution, marami talagang pinanggalingan ng kanyang mga batas, ng kanyang mga articles. So talagang pinagtagpi-tagpi itong mga tinatawag nating mga batas na ito mula sa iba't ibang saligang batas. Preamble ng Constitution ng Malolos, Political Constitution of 1899. We, the representatives of the Filipino, lawfully convened in order to establish justice, provide for common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure the benefits of the liberty, imploring the aid of the sovereign legislator of the universe for the attainment of these ends have voted, deserved, and sanctioned of the following political constitution. As a direct challenge to colonial authorities of the Spanish Empire, the sovereignty was retroverted to the people, a legal principle underlying the Philippine Revolution. So, ang pinakadahilan kung bakit nagkaroon ng himagsikan ay para maibalik ang soberanya o sovereignty ng mga sa Pilipino, sa mga tao. Maibalik ang pagmamayari ng Pilipinas sa mga Pilipino o yung mismong tao o mamamayan ng Pilipinas. The people delegated governmental functions to civil servants while they retained actual sovereignty. So yung mga tao nagtalaga sila ng mga mamamahala while they retained actual sovereignty. Hindi ko mamamahala ay maaalis na sa kanila yung karapatan bilang mamamayan ng Pilipinas. So ang nagmamayari sa Pilipinas ay mga Pilipino, siyempre. The 27 articles of Title 4 detail the natural rights and popular sovereignty of the Filipinos, and the enumeration of which does not imply the prohibition of any other rights not expressly stated. So, ang ibig sabihin, dun sa Title 4, yung 27 articles na yun, hindi natin inilalarawan yung karapatan ng mga Pilipino o ramay ng bansa natin, at yung mga nakasulat doon hindi ibig sabihin na kung ano yung nakasulat doon yun lang yung karapatan nila. Meron din silang mga rights na expressly stated, hindi tuwirang sinabi doon, pero may karapatan pa rin sila. Pero yung kahulugan nun. Title 3 Article 5 also declared that the state recognizes the freedom and equality of all beliefs, as well as the separation of the church and the state. So naandun din yung mga separation of church and states, at saka yung karapatan, kumbaga karapatan sa lahat ng paniniwala, kumbaga freedom of religion, freedom of belief ng bawat tao. These are direct reactions to pictures the Spanish government in the Philippines, where the friars were dominant agents of the state. Kasi dun sa nakalipas na mga pamamahala, siya pilitan kasi na pinipilit kumbaga yung relihiyon sa tao, papilitan. Ibig sabihin, kumbaga almost wala kang karapatan na mamili kung ano yung gusto mong paniwalaan. Pero dito nagkaroon ng tinatawag na freedom of equality of all beliefs. Yung paniniwala mo, syempre kailangan may karapatan ka o malaya kang pumili ng paniniwalaan mo na relihiyon or paniniwala mo sa buhay. And then hindi pwedeng makialam ang mga simbahan sa mga affairs ng estado. Ganoon din ng estado, hindi siya pwedeng makialam sa affairs ng simbahan. The form of government according to the Title 2, Article 4 is to be popular, representative, ay ibig sabihin sa tao. Representative, alternative, and responsible, and shall exercise three distinct powers: legislative, executive, and judicial. So, andun yung mga katangian ng gobyerno. Popular, ibig sabihin makatao. Representative, ibig sabihin sa bawat sektor ng mga ng mamamayan meron siyang meron siyang pinaglalaanan. Alternative, ibig sabihin hindi para sa isang sektor lang, kundi para sa lahat ng sektor. And also we have responsible, ibig sabihin ay Siya yung may gabay, may tangan sa mga tao, and shall exercise 3 distinct powers. Okay. Legislative, executive, and judicial. At yan na rin ang meron tayo ngayon sa ating kasalukuyang saligang batas. The legislative power was vested in a unicameral body called the Assembly, representative members of which are elected for terms of 4 years. So, every 4 years silang yung kanilang tenure of office. Itong mga tinatawag na Assembly of Representatives or sa modernong pananalita, mga congressmen. Secretaries of government were given seats in the assembly which meet annually for the period of at least 3 months. Bills could be introduced either by the president or by a member of the assembly. So yung inilulunsad na batas, mga batas na isinusulat ay either pinapakilala ng presidente o yung mga miyembro nitong tinatawag na Assembly of Representative. Some power not legislative in nature were also given to the body, such the right of impeaching the president, cabinet members, the chief of justice of the Supreme Court, and the Solicitor General. So, itong mga Assembly of Representatives, meron din silang mga ganitong klaseng kapangyarihan. Pwede nilang ma-impeach ang presidente, alinmang cabinet members, yung chief justice or yung punong hukom ng Korte Suprema of Supreme Court or Solicitors Generals. A permanent commission of 7 elected by the Assembly and granted specific powers by the Constitution was to sit during the intervals between sessions of the Assembly. Executive power was vested in the President and elected by the Constituent Assembly of the Assembly of Representatives and Special Representatives. The President will serve a term of 4 years without re-election. So, pag naging presidente siya, hindi na siya pwedeng umulit. Tapos itong presidente, according to the Malolos Constitution, ay iboboto ng tinatawag na Constituent Assembly nung Assembly of Representatives. Kasi hindi pa katulad ng panahon natin ngayon na meron na tayong kakayahan na magkaroon ng national election. Pero dito hindi pa ganun ka-sophisticated yung sistema ng election sa Pilipinas. So it is election by Constituent Assembly of the Assembly of the Representatives. There was no vice president, and in case of vacancy, a president was to be selected by the Constituent Assembly. So ano mang mangyari doon sa nakatayong presidente or sa nakupong presidente, pag nagkaroon ng vacancy, boboto uli or mamimili uli ng presidente. The 1899 Malolos Constitution was never enforced due to the ongoing war. The Philippines was effectively a territory of the United States upon the signing of the Treaty of Paris between Spain and United States, transferring sovereignty of the Philippines on December 10, 1898. So, nagkaroon na ng signing sa Treaty of Paris. So, naging teritoryo tayo na or pinamunuan tayo na Estados Unidos. So ang hangad din naman ng Estados Unidos is maibalik sa atin yung ating sovereignty, and it happened in December 10, 1898. Okay, the 1935 Commonwealth Constitution. It is worth mentioning that after the Treaty of Paris, the Philippines was subject to the power of the United States of America, effectively the new colonizer of the country. From 1898 to 1901, the Philippines would be placed under military government until a civil government would be put into place. 2 acts of the United States Congress were passed that may be considered 2 qualities of constitutionality. So, explain ko muna itong mga ito, no? So, nung 1898 to 1901, na ilagay sa military government ang ating bansa, ang Pilipinas, dahil wala pang tinatawag na civil government din dahil nga nagkaroon ng pagbabago, naging territory tayo ng mga Estados Unidos. So yung mga Kastila kasi hindi na sila ang namumuno sa ating bansa, Estados Unidos na. So, 1898 to 1901, nailagay tayo sa military government. Okay? Kasi naninibago pa, or yung martial rule. Martial rule. I'm not saying martial law. I'm saying martial law. Martial rule. So, 2 acts of United States Congress were passed that may be considered to the qualities of constitutionality. First was the Philippine Organic Act of 1902, the first organic law of the Philippine Islands that provided for the creation of popular elected Philippine Assembly. So, yan yung mga pinasa sa Kongreso ng Estados Unidos. Una yung Philippine Organic Act of 1902. Ibig sabihin na yung Philippine Assembly or yung mga representantes, sila ay iboboto, hindi sila itatalaga lamang or pipiliin. Kailangan magkaroon ng eleksyon or dapat iboto sila ng mga tao, popularly elected. The act is specified that legislative power would be vested in the bicameral legislature composed to the Philippine Commission as the upper house and the Philippine Assembly as the lower house. So, kumbaga, itong Philippine Commission, ito yung counterpart ng Senate sa panahon natin ngayon. Tapos itong Philippine Assembly, it is the lower house of the House of Representatives, mga Congress, Congresswoman, Congressman. Key provisions of the Act included a Bill of Rights for Filipinos and appointment of 2 non-voting Filipino resident commissioners of the Philippines as representative to the United States House of Representatives. So, dito sa Philippine Organic Act na to, nagkaroon ng Bill of Rights for Filipinos, sa karapatan ng mga Pilipinos. Tapos, mag-appoint sila ng 2 non-voting Filipino resident commissioners of the Philippines. Tapos, nagre-represent ito sa Estados Unidos, dun sa House of Representatives sa Estados Unidos. The second act that functions as the Constitution was the Philippine Autonomy Act of 1916, commonly referred to as Jones Law, which modified the structure of the Philippine government through the removal of the Philippine Commission. So, pinalitan yung pangalan, naging Senate na ito, that served as the upper house and its member elected by the Filipino voters, the first truly elected national legislator. Kasi 'di ba yung mga nakalipas, binoboto lang ng elected ng Constituent Assembly. Pero ito, mga tao na talaga, or mga Pilipino na mismo ang bumoboto. Kasi noon ay mga mga kumbaga is mga elected lang sa Philippine Assembly. Kung sino lang nandun, sila lang yung mag-e-elect o sila lang yung bibigay ng presidente kung sino gusto nila. O sila lang yung boboto, mag-e-elect. Hindi binibigyan ng pagboto or karapatan yung mga Pilipino. So, it was also act by explicitly declared the purpose of the United States to end their sovereignty over the Philippines and recognize Philippine independence as soon as the stable government can be established. So, this is explicitly declared, talagang sinabi ng Estados Unidos na ibabalik sa Pilipinas yung soberanya ng ating bansa at magkakaroon ng Philippine independence as soon as the stable government can be established. Pag itatag na yung gobyerno, magkakaroon na ng sariling sovereignty ang Pilipinas. In 1932, with the efforts of the Filipino Independence Mission led by Sergio Osmeña and Manuel Rojas, the United States Congress passed the House Cutting Act with the promise of the granting Filipinos independence. So ito ay the bill was opposed by then Senate President Manuel L. Quezon and consequently rejected by the Philippine Senate. By 1934, another law, the Tidings McDuffie Act, also known as the Philippine Independence Act, was passed the United States Congress that provided authority and defined mechanism for the establishment of formal constitution by the Constitutional Convention. So ito yung tinatawag nilang CONCON. The members of the convention were elected and held their first meeting on July 30, 1934 with Claro M. Recto unanimously elected as president. The Constitution was crafted to meet the approval of the United States government and to ensure that the United States would live up to its promise to grant independence to the Philippines. Source: Symbol of 1835 Commonwealth. The Filipino people, imploring the aid of divine providence in order to establish a government that shall embody their ideals, conserve and develop and the patrimony of the nation, promote the general welfare, and secure themselves and their posterity the blessings of independence under the regime of justice, liberty, and democracy, to ordain and promulgate this Constitution. The Constitution created the Commonwealth of the Philippines and an administrative body that governed the Philippines from 1935 to 1946. It is transitional administration to prepare the country toward its full achievement of independence. It originally provided for a unicameral National Assembly with the President and Vice President elected to a 6 years term without a re-election. So, una nilang napag-usapan kasi napagkasundoan dito sa Commonwealth Constitution na yung tinatawag na National Assembly, it is unicameral. So walang senator, walang congressman, isa lang. Ibig sabihin ng isa lang. Na tinatawag natin na National Assembly. Kumbaga, congressman lang, representatives lang, with the president and vice president elected to a 6-year term without a re-election. So, mamumuno sila ng 6 na taon tapos wala ng re-election. It was amended in 1940 to have bicameral Congress composed of the Senate and House Representatives. So, noong 1940, naging bicameral na, nagkaroon na ng upper house and lower house, as well as the creation of an independent electoral commission. So, kumbaga nagkaroon ng commission on election and limited of term ng vice president and president to 4 years. Naging 4 na taon na lang, pero pwede silang ma-re-elect. Pwede ulit maiboto. Rights to suffrage or yung karapatang bumoto were originally afforded to male citizens of the Philippines who are 21 years of age or over and are able to read and write. This was later on extended to women within 2 years after the adoption of the Constitution. So, nagkaroon ng karapatan na bumoto yung mga kalalakihan, and then within 2 years, binigyan na rin ng karapatan bumoto ang mga kababaihan. So, 21 years of age ang kailangan and over. And then, siyempre, kailangan marunong magsulat at bumasa. It also bears the traces of Malolos Constitution, the German, Spanish, and Mexican constitutions of several South American countries, and the unwritten English constitutions. So, nagkaroon na naman ng iba't ibang adoption of mga charters or mga tinatawag nating mga batas mula sa iba't ibang bansa or constitution ng bansa. So, meron galing ng constitution, manang sa Malolos, tapos meron ding from the German, Spanish, Mexican, etc. na lahat sila ay pinanggalingan ng constitutions. Pero the dominant constitution, of course, the American, sila yung namuno sa atin eh. So, the draft of the Constitution was approved by the Constitution Convention on February 8 and ratified by the US President Franklin B. Roosevelt on March 25, 1935. Elections were held in September 1935 and Manuel Quezon was elected President of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was briefly interrupted by the events of the World War II, with the Japanese occupying the Philippines. Afterward, upon liberations, the Philippines was declared an independent republic on July 4, 1946. And that's our study of the evolutions of the Philippine Constitution. So, next week, ang pag-aaralan natin ay yung second half o yung part 2 of the evolutions of the Philippine Constitution. 1973 Constitution, tapos yung 1986 Freedom Constitution, and then 1987 Constitution, tapos yung mga amendments or yung attempts to change the 1987 Constitution. So, yun po yung pag-aaral natin by next week. So, yun lang guys. So, have a good day to all. Sana ay may naintindihan, and I hope na mapakinggan nyo to para may dagdag din kaalaman sa ating isipan patungkol sa ano ba yung nangyari or ano ba yung pinagdaanan ng Constitution ng Pilipinas sa iba't ibang constitution na umusbong sa ating bansa. Yun lang. So, that's all for today. Have a good day and goodbye and thank you.